3.2 is solving inequalities using addition and subtraction, and for this we're going to use a lot of the same methods that we used back in Chapter 1 when we were solving equations. So it's a pretty quick section, and let's get to it. So our learning goal for today, I will write and solve inequalities using addition or subtraction. And also I will solve real life problems. Okay, so really the most complicated part, I don't really even want to call it complicated, but the hardest part about this is when you're not given the inequalities, when you have a story problem and you have to come up with your own, and even those aren't too tricky. So let's just start off remembering how we solve inequalities. So example 1, if I have f minus 4 is less than or equal to 1. I want to solve for f and graph the solution. And remember that we're just graphing on a number line, so nothing too complicated. We only have one variable, so we only have a number line. We don't have to worry about the coordinate plane. So basically I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did when this was an equation. If this was f minus 4 equals 1, all we would do is add 4 to each side. Turns out that's all you have to do for an inequality also. I just need to add 4 to the left-hand side of the inequality. To keep it balanced, I have to add 4 to the right-hand side. So if I'm taking away 4 and then adding 4, I'm left with just f. If I'm starting with 1 and adding 4, then now I have 5. So that means f has to be less than or equal to 5. So to graph this, I graph out my number line. Let's put in 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are very evenly spaced. Close enough. Now this is less than or equal to 5. That means 5 is a possibility. So I do a closed circle at 5. And then I'm talking about numbers that are less than 5. Remember, we can always put in 0. Is 0 less than or equal to 5? It is. So I'm pointing towards 0, or you can draw your arrow above just so it's easier to see. And then you could check this. What if I put in 1? 1 minus 4 is negative 3. Negative 3 is less than or equal to 1. Yep, that's totally true. So that's pretty simple. We would do the same thing then, just same but opposite. If we have addition in the problem. So this was a subtraction problem. I used addition to solve. Now let's do this. Negative 8 is greater than 1 4/10 plus x. Tiny bit trickier because we have a decimal, but nah, not really. Not really that much harder. So in this case, we have a positive 1.4 with the x that we want to get rid of. So to get rid of it, I'm going to subtract 1.4 from each side. If I subtract 1.4 here, I need to subtract 1.4 here. When I do that, I have negative 8, and I'm taking away another 1 4/10. So I'm getting more negative, or if you think about it as adding the negative 1.4, I end up with negative 9.4. My sign stays exactly the same. I had 1.4, but I subtracted 1.4, so I'm left with just x. I want to graph that. I draw out my number line. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Oops, my number line's not long enough. So negative 9.4 is going to be right around there. This is going to be an open circle. And then I'm going to think about where 0 would be. Is negative 9.4 greater than 0? No, it's not, which means I want my arrow pointing away from 0. 0 is not a possible solution. So let's think about negative 10. If I have negative 8 is greater than 1.4 plus 10, I'm sorry, plus negative 10. Let's plug it in so we actually see it. Here I have numbers that have opposite signs, and I have more negatives than positives. So my answer is going to be negative, and the difference between 10 and 1.4 is 8.6. So is negative 8 greater than negative 8.6? Yes, it is. So it makes sense that my arrow is pointing in the direction of negative 10. So those are pretty simple. Let's have you do just like 2 on your own to make sure you're on the right track. Slide this guy up. So try, let's do one with a fraction. 1/4 is greater than y minus 1/4. And you can also try p plus 7/10 is greater than negative 2 3/10. I want you to solve and graph the solution. So try that out, and then start it up again to make sure you were right. Okay, so let's solve this first one. The problem is subtracting 1/4, which means to solve, I'm going to add 1/4 to each side. So I'm going to add 1/4 over here. 1/4 and 1/4 is 2/4. These cancel each other out, so I'm left with 2/4 is greater than y, but that's going to simplify to 1/2 is greater than y. So when I draw my number line, running out of room. Here's 0. Let's make this 1, 2. 1/2 is going to be right here. And this is going to be an open circle because it's just greater than, it's not greater than or equal to. And it's 1/2 is greater than y. So think about this. Is 1/2 greater than 0? Yes, it is. So 0 should be in my solution set, or I want to be pointing in the direction of 0. For this next one, p plus 7/10 is greater than negative 2.3, or negative 2 3/10. Because I'm adding the 7/10, I need to subtract 7/10 from each side to solve. So I'm left with p. Negative 2 3/10, I'm taking away another 7/10 would put me at negative 3 altogether. So p is greater than negative 3. Draw out my number line, 0, 1, 2, 3. Again, I need to have an open circle because it's just greater than, not greater than or equal to. And because I'm talking about the numbers that are greater than negative 3, I'm going to be pointing toward the bigger numbers. Or I could test out 0. Is 0 greater than negative 3? Sure is, so I'm pointing towards 0. For our final example, we're looking at a word problem, so you don't need to write all this down, but just so you can see it visually. You have raised $225 for a charity. Your goal is to raise at least $600. Write and solve an inequality that represents the amount of money you need to raise to reach your goal. So at least means that we want $600 or more. So the amount that we raise will be $225 plus some additional amount. We don't know what that is. We want that to be greater than or equal to 600. That's because when we say at least, we would be okay with 600, but it would be fine if this number were bigger than 600 also. So this is how we're going to set it up, and as you can see, this is just a really simple subtraction problem, because all I'm going to do is subtract 225 from each side to get my variable isolated. So I'm left with x is greater than or equal to, 375. So you need to raise, and then this is x is greater than or equal to, so at least $375 more. And that's all you have to do. And that's the entire section. So that wasn't so bad. Like I said, it's really just like solving equations, except for you have the inequality side. Solve it exactly how you were doing stuff in chapter 1. So piece of cake. Good luck on the homework.